Hello and welcome to another episode of Sugar, Silk, and Stretch, a podcast where we like to go toe-to-toe with our guest fighters. My name is Michael Olajide.
My name's Ben Doughty.
And our third wheel, Gary Stretch, is unfortunately not with us today. He's either predisposed, undisposed, or indisposed. I'm not sure which one he is, which one of the three he is. What about you, Ben?
You never know with Gary. You know, not only is he a pugilist, but he's also a thespian and actor, you know, so who knows?
Actors, yeah.
But we have somebody just as good as Gary Stretch
Yes,
right here.
Yes. Today we have former world-rated lightweight contender, the highly esteemed, mighty Ivan Robertson. I mean, come on. This is great. It's so great talking to you, brother. How you doing?
I'm good, man. It's a pleasure. I appreciate you.
Hey, I appreciate you too. I know we bumped into each other along the road. My career kind of ended when yours is really just taking off. But obviously I watched many of your fights, and I was always so impressed with you.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
No, of
course. I was just watching the first Gatti fight back from 1988, just before we come on, and I'd seen it before, but it reminded me that Ivan was a fantastic complete fighter, brilliant, beautiful combination puncher, beautiful boxer, but he could get down and dirty, he could box and slug. Essential Philly fighter. His combinations were like Roy Jones, but when he got down, it was like Duran or something. It was lovely.
That's exactly what it was. There was that old Philly grain in me.
Yeah.
You know what's really interesting about that, Ivan? When I look at you, and I watched how you box, and I've always thought, like, I saw an affinity, like a comparison to like a Sugar Ray Robinson, the way you would float, the way you would throw the combinations, the way the way your curved shoulders. I didn't really get much of the shoulder roll and all the rest of that kind of stuff, but you had a way of throwing combinations where you put your body behind it, the way you turned it, and it really reminded me of Sugar Ray Robinson at times. Has anyone ever said that to you before? Who were your trainers?
Well, my actual trainer was my dad.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, my dad was with me from the age of 5 to about 22, right before I fought Philip Holiday.
Yeah.
For the world championship title. I had me and him was together. We fought Emmanuel Augustus. Then after Emmanuel Augustus fight, we had a little disputation, and I think that was the worst thing in my career was me firing my dad. Because then that's when y'all start seeing that gritty Ivan Robinson that I did know I had, but I shouldn't have brought it out a lot. It was only supposed to be brought out in certain fights, but it seemed that was the second half of my career that y'all start knowing about me. I was just a dirty type, well, not dirty fighter, but I got down in the Grinches. I slugged with a lot of fighters.
Yeah.
It was seesaw back and forth with me, and my dad didn't teach me that way. My dad always taught me to box. That's what y'all know me for. The guy with combinations, had slick movement and all that. But once my dad left, I guess I turned on to that transition where it was just all be hit and get hit.
Yeah. Well, you did tend to think, having my father was my trainer as well. And then all of a sudden, once your father leaves, there's certain disciplines that don't remain the same, right? You don't do things the way you did. And the same concerns, like your father's always about, don't get hit, and he'll always say that. And it tends to, I don't know, something about it. You just tend to, you don't ignore it on purpose, but you just feel like, listen, I'm going to be able to handle it. I'm my own man now, and you're just stepping into your own.
Yeah, that's basically what it was about. I think when my dad left, it was pretty much me running the ship then, because even though, I always say it's only 3 people I'm scared of in life. That's my dad, that's child support, and my father. So he was one of them, and until this day, God not rest my dad, so he's still with me. But I'm 53 years old right now, and at the age that I'm not scared of nobody but my dad. My dad get on me or he get mad at me, I have a problem with it. You can see the disgust and everything in my face. Yeah. So I think that was the actual transition in my career. When my dad left, things didn't get that bad, but things got pretty much bad in the way they shouldn't have got up. Like with me doing a fighting back and forth, slugging with these guys. If my dad was in my corner, I wouldn't have never did nothing like that.
Now, did you? Your father was with you from the start, so from 5 years of age. Was he a fighter himself? Did he fight?
No. Actually, my dad wasn't a fighter. He was just, I don't know. We all say in our time, God gives us special powers, and I guess he gave my dad that special power on being a trainer, how to pick up on things, strategizing a fight, making a plan for a fight, getting you ready for the fighter. Having different equipments in the fight with you, like a left hook, a body shot, or a jab. My dad was the professor when it came to being in the corner.
Now, how does he do that? I'm sorry, Ben. I just got to ask for a second. How does that happen? Because if he had never fought before, did he know people in the gym? Like what was it that gave him that kind of knowledge?
I'm a '70s baby. So. I came around like when Georgie Benton and all those guys was around, when Tyrone Crawley was around, when Georgie Benton, Manuel Griffith, all those guys, I kind of picked up from them guys. My dad was around those guys all the time. The Cyclone Hearts of Philadelphia. He went to gyms. I guess he studied these guys, and he just actually took the blueprint and gave it to me.
Yeah. I see.
Sometimes we see that where guys didn't box, but they do have an extraordinary proclivity for training fighters and reading a fight. I do think it's rare, but it's particularly when you're training your own son. I noticed when you said I read an interview online, Ivan, where you used the term "I fired my dad," and I think after that you worked with Tommy Brooks and Odell Cathell. Is that the right?
Odell? Well, what happened? Odell Cathay was always in my corner from day one with my dad. So like when me and my dad separated, I didn't really have too much of a change on when it came to me doing things in a fight or training a certain way, because Odell picked up where my dad left off. But Odell and my dad had a different type of style. My dad was always punch and not get hit. Odell kind of style was kind of a little different. It was kind of a little attack style. And even though I had great defense, I felt though my defense was great, I still thought it was pretty much rare that I got into a lot of wars with fighters, like the Gatti fights, the Emmanuel Gustis fights, the Antonio Diaz fight, the Angel Man Freddy, all those type of guys in those fights. I could just see where my dad wouldn't had a different plan for me to do, and we would have did it. And the thing about it was, him training me for the many years that he trained me, I knew what he would be telling me in my corner because I could be hearing exactly what he said. But I was the type of fighter, I never disrespect anybody that was in my corner. That gave me advice to do everything. So I pretty much did what those guys asked me to do. But in certain fights, I could just see where I could just do what I wanted to, because me and my dad worked on things so much, so often, all the time. Like for instance, the Gatti fight. There was just no way that Gatti was going to be able to beat me, because I knew that was a fight that where my dad implemented for me to be the boxer, to use my hand speed, to do angles, all those type things. So it just came out of me. The only difference was the fights were different. The Gatti 1 fight, I should have did in the Gatti 2 fight, but the Gatti fight was like a respectful fight, because even though me and Gatti was friends after the first fight, which we was friends before that, which we never boxed each other. We was always a high and by situation. But the situation was, Gatti said in the first fight press conference was how he was going to knock me out and beat me up and all that. And that, that didn't take well with me. That didn't take well with me at all.
You guys knew each other, I believe, from sparring with Pernell in camp.
Yeah, that's how we became friends. It was just ironic how it was just crazy how we never sparred each other. And I was on a podcast last week, and I was just saying how at the end of the day, I'm just that type of guy, regardless of the situation. I know boxing is not at the high pinnacle that it once was when like Mr. Michael Elijah Day was out there fighting, and I was watching him, and then I came behind him to fight. The sport of boxing is not what it was back then or when I was around. It's totally different.
It is.
But at the end of the day, you have to give the promoters and the matchmakers they do, because they're really, at the end of the day, they're smart about what they do and how they do it. They can pick fights. They know what fights that's going to get money, that's going to make money. They know fights that's not going to make money. So the way that I seen it, main events knew that somewhere along the line, me and Gatti was going to fight, or they just put us together to fight, and it turned out to be a great fight.
That was Carl Moretti,
let me
right?
ask you a second. If I
Yeah, that was Carl Moretti.
If I could ask you, the Emmanuel Augustus, how difficult was he really? Like, what was it like being in the ring with him? Because he's kind of legendary with that head movement and the dance. Everyone's talking about the drunken warrior and everything.
Yeah, he's one of those guys that, of course, Mr. Elijah, you know how promoters get fighters to get their best fighters to fight another fighter, to either take them the distance or teach them because they've been around so long. Yeah. They're the gatekeeper, and I think that's what they did with Emmanuel Augustus. He was a gatekeeper, man. He was one of the best in my time, of my era, that just was always on the wrong side of the track. There was fights that I think before him that he won, he didn't get. Now he didn't beat me. He didn't beat me though. But yeah, it was a lot of other fights on that he didn't win, that he should have gotten out with. Like I just seen it like 3 weeks ago. I finally looked at him and Mickey Ward. Man, that was a bad. I thought he beat Mickey Ward. I really did.
Yeah. So you think he didn't have the promotional contacts? He was a gifted dude, but he just didn't have he didn't know the people.
He didn't know the people. You're right. He didn't know the people, and he didn't have the right promotion. And also, I think he was from Georgia, from down south somewhere. Yeah. He was at the point that he just didn't care. He just loved to fight.
Yeah. It's a question of how they move you. And a guy like that was just on the road, and I guess he enjoyed it because he embraced that role, and he kind of immortalized himself in that role, which most guys, gatekeepers, don't do,
Trust and believe. You hit the hammer on the nail.
Thank you.
Let me ask you, Alvin, do you have any rituals or superstitions when you're about to fight? Like, I know I did, but just some things that you had to be right for you in order to win a fight.
Well, I always, it was just crazy. Well, the ritual that I had coming up with my dad was that when it rained, I always had a spectacular event, a spectacular night. I always got rid of my opponents. I always knocked my opponents out. That was just one. My other ritual was that I was a big McFadden Whitehead fan, and I kind of found out Larry Holmes was too, because me and him was the only two that ever come out to their music.
Yeah. I used to have the wildest ritual. For all of my fights, I would like Jello. For some, I don't know how it started, but I had Jello for all my pro fights, and I never lost. The one time I got to Vegas and I lost to Tate, it was the day I didn't have Jello.
That's what it will be. That's what it will be.
Wow. So it's a little shaky, I know. I guess.
It's funny, because fighters do have these things, and it can bother you. Something like that is significant. Because Sugar Ray Leonard always said he would look in the mirror and look in his eyes. And he said if he saw Sugar Ray, the cool, detached assassin, he knew he was good. If he just saw plain old Ray Leonard, he was worried. And he claims he just saw Ray Leonard in the mirror in Montreal the first time he fought Roberto Duran, and he didn't see Sugar Ray. So that was his thing,
Wow.
Wow, that's
pretty deep. Like Ray's looking at himself in a way that other people don't really. Because I don't know, as a fighter, I don't know if I've ever done that. Look at myself and see if I am that warrior.
I got it tonight. Yeah.
Yeah. Ray was just something totally altogether different.
Yeah, he was a different beast. If you could increase any one rich attribute you had, whether it's resiliency, speed, stamina, power, infighting, defense, whatever.
Power.
That's what you would want more.
Power. I mean, I think I was one of the best combination punchers out there.
For sure.
My defense was pretty good. I didn't start getting hit on. I never been knocked out, but I didn't start getting honestly really getting hit on until later in my career when I knew that it was time to get out. I had a great management team. I didn't make a whole lot of money, but I made enough money to be satisfied with I have and what I can do, the things that I can do today. And also I'm glad that I got a lot of the resources that I do have.
Yes. So basically you would say power is the one thing, the attribute that you wish you had more of.
You could tell me that. You already know that would probably be the most important thing out of everything when it comes. If I asked any analyst or any sports writer what would be the biggest thing they think that I should have or would have had in my career, and everybody would say power.
And I remember in the Gatti fight, which I just watched, and the commentary was saying, Arturo believes that Robinson doesn't have the power to hurt him. I remember them having that kind of perception.
But he did hurt him numerous times.
Yeah, I did hurt him. But see, that's what I'm saying. I didn't want to be a Mike Tyson. I wanted to be a Michael Olajide, where I could hit you with a shot and then I can get rid of you in combinations. That's all.
The funny thing, Ivan, is he's more power focused because that's what I thought of him. But he's actually more of a puncher mentality than I realized. When you talk to the Silk about boxing a lot today, he believes in an early shower. He doesn't think any fighter should be trying to go the distance if they can get. I'm with you. I wanted to be a beautiful boxer. I do my best to imitate those guys I looked up to. But the Silk actually believes in Silk and seek and destroy, right?
But yeah, I mean, I did have like a lower 70% KO average, and the guys that I didn't beat, I tend to drop them. So I did have a punch, and I knew I had that, and sometimes that blinded me from the ability to hit them.
Exactly.
The power can do exactly that, but that, how did you? What do I want to say? Like, as an amateur, you didn't feel that thing like you can hit, if you hit somebody you could hurt them, and was not something you could work on? Did you feel like power was something you could develop?
Back in our day, well, my day, because you older than I am, but back in my day, it was just different. If guys felt as though you had to be born and raised with the power. You had to like come out your mom womb with power.
Yeah.
That's how you had to be in my era. Because in my era, the way I felt, it wasn't nobody that I was scared of. You could put me in the ring. You could put me in the ring with Mike. And I know Mike got 95, 96 knockouts. I did not care. Because if he got two hands and he got two legs and he think like me, what's the chances of me really losing? Because I know I'm good at what I do. So it was going to be a seesaw battle.
Tell me quickly about your amateur career. Do you remember your record? Because I know you qualified.
No, that's something I done. You know what? That's something I do not remember.
Wow. But you qualified.
Like to talk about from that period is the 3 fights with Oscar De La Hoya. I hope we could get onto.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I was just about to ask you, like, you qualified for the national team?
Yes, I did. Well, actually, me and Oscar, let me see. Me and Oscar fought in '89. Was our first fight. I went to the Junior Worlds in '86. I was on a Junior World team with Derek James, Tim Austin, it's a bunch of us, but I was on the Junior World team with them. After that, in '89 was my first national tournament because I had just turned open and I beat everybody in Pennsylvania. And the crazy part about it, when I flew out, because it was my first time flying, my first time being on the international team, I flew from Philly to DC, and then we flew from DC to Knoxville, Tennessee. When I got to DC to fly to Knoxville, I got on the plane with Mark Johnson and his dad. Ham Johnson, and we flew all the way down to the Pennsylvania Golden Gloves and Knoxville. I stayed in a room with Mark Johnson, which really Mark Johnson had. I think Mark Johnson had 2 other roommates, but for some reason Ham fixed the floor for me to lay on. Come to find out the next morning, I wasn't even supposed to be in a room with Mark Johnson. I was supposed to be with the Pennsylvania team, but by that being my first time flying out, I didn't know nothing about the airport. I didn't really know how to read the signals and nothing like that. Yeah. I just got on the plane or whatever. So when I got down to Knoxville, I was with Pennsylvania, boxing team in Pennsylvania, and I won 2 fights. Then I started getting a lot of recognition. People was talking about me, this, that, but then they were saying that it's this kid from California that I need to look out for. And I had Barry Stump and I had Morris Frazier was my coaches that year. So when we won the night before, and Oscar won the night before. So we had a lot of people that, battling back and forth about who was going to win between me and Oscar. And my thing was, I didn't even think about Oscar. I didn't even care who he was, what he did, and nothing like that. I just wanted to go out there and fight. So Morris and them took me out there that night. And I talked to my dad the night before. And I was telling my dad about Oscar, how about they raving about this kid from California. My dad said, look, go out there and do your best. What my dad said, do your best. Because my dad was always on me about throwing combination. Always. I mean, my dad had me throwing 6, 8 punch combinations in training. Moving, turning, angles. I'm not sitting there like, Dad, why am I throwing these punches like this? He like, trust me, do it. So, I went out there, me and Oscar had our first fight, man, and I thought I beat him, man. I mean, he was strong from his left side. His left hand was strong. And I was wondering why. But I didn't find out until, I think, after the second fight. Because we fought 3 times. We fought in the Pennsylvania Golden Gloves. Then we fought in the Nationals. And
then the Goodwill Games.
And then the Goodwill Games. We wasn't it was just crazy how in that tournament they had 2 fighters from each country. I think it was US, Cuba, Russia, and I think it was Korea. The night before, I think Oscar stopped somebody. I can't remember who he beat, but he beat somebody. And then the same night, the next night, I beat the Russian. The Russian was supposed to give me trouble. I wasn't supposed to beat the Russian. They were saying Oscar was supposed to draw the Russian, but they were saying it was a lot of politics and the bracket was changed. So I got the Russian instead of Oscar, but it didn't make me no difference. I didn't care. I was going to win anyway. I went out there and I stopped the Russian in 2 rounds. I was not supposed to beat him. It was supposed to have been Oscar and the Russian. I beat the Russian. I guess I just messed everybody's plans up with that because it was crazy. That was the first time.
Tonchev, right? Was it Tonchev?
Yes. Yeah. Good memory. Yeah. That was the first time that actually, you know what? We had fought in the Mirage Hotel in Vegas. They had just built it. And we had got the first. We had the first trial of their big arena in the Mirage. They had USA TV on it. I'll never forget it. They had USA TV, and it was another show that came on that Larry King was on. He was on there that night too, but I come to find out he was there to watch me. Everybody thought he was there to watch Oscar. And man, me and Oscar put on a great performance. Again, I thought I came out on top, but I did. Oscar got it. And then from there, after that, when I came back to Philly, I never forget it. It was like 2.5 weeks later, my middle brother came to me and said, Ivan, Oscar's moving up to 132. I was like 132 because Oscar had made a statement after the Goodwill Games. He was saying, I done beat Ivan Robertson 3 times. I don't know why you would want to keep fighting the same guy over and over and you're never gonna beat him. So, that kind of made me mad. But I tried to keep my composure. I knew we was gonna meet each other again because he was 1 and I was 2. I mean, was nobody in the States that was gonna beat us because we beat everybody. Yeah. Anybody that was gonna give us problems was gonna be either the Russians, the Cubans, or basically that was it, Russia or Cuba. And it seemed like I always drew the Cuban and he always drew the Russian, which was okay. But he moved up after that Goodwill Games fight. And it was like after that, it was like we was just getting a lot of press because they were saying Oscar was going to win a gold at 132 and I was going to win a gold at 125. And I actually, it kind of stuck in my head and it kind of like made me kind of, how can I say it? I don't want to say selfish because I'm not a selfish dude, but it did give me a chip. It gave me a chip. I ain't gonna lie, it gave me a chip because that 125, nobody could beat me. The only person that at that time, the only person that I didn't fight and everybody was telling me about was the kid Arnaldo Mesa from Cuba.
Okay.
And I fought him like 6 months later. Yeah. And I swear to God, you talking about a kid that moves. I mean, you talking about me boxing and Mr. Lajay, you talking about you boxing. Man, this guy, he moved around the ring like he was on water. I couldn't hit him. I couldn't hit him or nothing, man. But it was just crazy because I kept the pressure on him. You know me, I throw combinations. I was hitting him with 3 and 4 punch combinations, but I guess the judges wasn't seeing it, and I lost to him. That was my only loss that year, and that was my international loss.
So let me ask you. I'm sorry. How important is an amateur career to a pro boxer? Like how important do you think? How important is an amateur career to a pro boxer?
Well, I mean, we gotta be realistic about it. Are you asking me about now, or are you talking about when we came up?
I'm talking about when we came up. Yeah.
Oh, when we came up, it was very, very important because the way that I seen it and the way that I judged it was that the amateurs give you it's like you going to school and your science teacher giving you a book to take home on the things that he told you to do in class. That's what it was for us as amateurs going into the pros, because as long as we got all that experience in the amateurs, we was gonna be okay when it came to the professional ranks. That's why you see guys like Lomachenko, Dante Wilder, what's the other one? Josh, now the heavyweight.
Anthony Joshua.
Anthony Joshua. You see why these guys can pretty much not all say 100%, but this how you got to give them at least 60% of the chance. That's the reason why they can hold up with our American fighters, because they've done so good throughout the years in the amateurs by seeing who they was going to fighting them guys and beating them guys.
Although, Lomachenko had like maybe 400 amateur fights, whereas Anthony Joshua had like a handful, like maybe.
Yeah, I do think that there's Lomachenko is a whole different type of beast, and you can tell by the skills.
Definitely.
Compared to Joshua, like you look at the skills on the physical skills between the two of them, and it's a different breed altogether. But I do understand what you're saying. Like the amateurs are just such an important. Like you can lose in the amateurs, and that's okay as long as you're cultivating. You know what I mean? And you cultivate as a pro.
Absolutely.
So as an amateur, Oscar De La Hoya was your main thing. Did you think you were going to fight him as a pro, or do you think that was?
Well, actually, it's crazy. I was just, like I said, I was just on a podcast about a week ago, and I was telling them about the Oscar De La Hoya. Well, no, this wasn't. This wasn't the Oscar De La Hoya fight. This was supposed to have been the Shane Mosley fight. But the Oscar De La Hoya fight what happened was I think he was like number 1 at lightweight, and I was like number 3 and number 4. And we were supposed to fight. At least he asked for the fight. And I said to him, I didn't care. My manager and them didn't want me to fight because they thought it was a little too early. But I was like, man, look, it is what it is. He, to me and to my manager, we think he sold us short, because honestly, he wanted us to fight him for I think like 250,000. And at the time, honestly, I was only about probably like 10-0, but I still thought that I was better than what the asking price was, what he was trying to give me. And we went back and forth on it for about a week. And after that, he said no. He turned around and gave the money to Jesse James Lehigh, and he went and knocked out James Lehigh in like what, 4 rounds, 5 rounds?
2.
Oh damn, 2. He would have never did that to me though.
No, you know, Jesse James Lehigh got criticised for that fight. Some people accused him of half lying down. I don't believe he did, but he did get some criticism from that particular performance. They thought it was a little bit disappointing from him, you know?
Yeah,
right.
To me, it wouldn't be Jesse's, in Jesse's nature to do that. So I think sometimes punches don't look as official as some others. I know that in my last fight, I got clipped, and I swear to God, I saw the film of it, and it doesn't even look like I got hit. And I'm like, I don't understand, why am I on the canvas? And it's just so strange. But sometimes, like, your body just tells you it doesn't have the resiliency anymore. It just can't do it, right? And so the weakest, lamest punches are and against guys that are not nearly what you took punches from 2, 3, 4 years ago. All of a sudden, they're getting you out, and that's when it tells you, hey, it's time to depart, because it's getting bad. It's getting really ugly. So let me ask you, what is the ugliest part of your career? What's the hardest part? When I say hard, I mean I'm meaning ugly, dirty, like where you just
now. Let me ask you this with the same question you asked me. Are you asking me like what was the focal point of my career as far as like the bad spot, or where did I hit rock bottom at?
Probably both, because I'm kind of looking at it like this. Like, conversely, the Gatti fight, I would assume, may have been the apex of your career.
Wow, what a
you're gonna tell me. I don't know. I'm guessing, but I would just think like,
you're guessing right. You're guessing right.
I'm asking you right now because the Gatti fight, I mean, that was HBO, that was international, and tell me about that one first. What is it like when you go out your door the next morning and you won that fight? Like, is life different?
Yeah. Well, let me go back a little bit. Like I told y'all, both of y'all before, where I felt as though my career kind of like started to swindle, but it did pick up after the Gatti fight. Yeah. It kind of swindled was once I let my dad go, because one, I knew that was the worst thing in the world to do. Mm-hmm. And they always say that God punishes you for the mistakes. Well, not the mistakes. He punishes you for the things that you do that you know that you weren't supposed to do that are bad. And that I didn't think about it until afterwards when I lost because right after me and my dad separated, right after that I went to camp to get ready for Philip Holiday. I was in camp with Pernell Whitaker. I was in camp with Arturo Gatti. I was in camp with Junior Jones. I was in camp with David Tour, and I was in camp with Robbie Pender from Australia. So I was in a great camp. Yes. And and that's where I picked up Tommy Brooks at, because Tommy Brooks was with Main Events. I was with Main Events. Main Events knew I had my dad, and they knew I had Odell. So, I'm figuring, like I said, the matchmakers of the world and the promoters of the world, the reason they have the money that they have and why they do the things that they do, because they're geniuses at those things. And I guess they looked at it like, they didn't know Odell Cathay that well, but they knew he was part of my team. Mm-hmm. They knew as well as anything that what ran Ivan Robinson, or what made Ivan Robinson as great as he was his dad. So when he left, I guess they must have figured, like, who can we put in to replace his dad? Because to tell you the truth, I was going to still go to the fight with Odell Cathay. He would have just been everything. It wouldn't have been no man before him. It would have just been him and my cut man. But by Main Events doing what they did and them being my promotional team at the time, they brought Tommy Brooks in. And Tommy Brooks had just had got off the plane with Junior Jones, because Junior Jones had just knocked out Antonio Barrera.
Yeah.
So it's like, Tommy Brooks was the hottest thing since cream cheese. I mean, everybody was talking about him. So, I guess main events thought that was a hot topic. They thought that I should go in there and win the IBF title and be champion. So they figured, why not, keep the name going? Why not keep the company rolling and bring Tommy Brooks in? But what I found out about Mr. Brooks was that he's a great trainer, but he probably needed more time with me because he just didn't give me the right game plan to go in there and do what I needed to do against Philip Holiday. Now, in that Holiday fight, it came like after, I say like after the 5th round, I'm saying to myself as I'm going back to the corner, this is the end of the round, I'm going back to the corner saying to myself, like, this ain't right. Yeah. I'm not doing right. I'm not
and why did you think that? What didn't feel right? Was it a physical thing? Was it?
No, I missed my dad.
Oh, I see.
I was going to a corner that I shouldn't have been going to. It was like me going to the neutral corner.
Yeah. And why did you never try to like get back with your dad?
Nah, it was just, I mean, you probably can tell, you probably know just as well as I know. When you on that high pedestal at the time, things just block out a lot of other things, and you just shy away from them.
Stubborn.
So if you could do it all over,
good word. I ain't want to say that. Good word, stubborn. That's it.
So if you could do it all over again, though, you would actually go back with your father, or you never would have left your father.
Would have never left.
Wouldn't have never left because wow.
Which what that shows me as well, gentlemen, is sometimes it doesn't matter about a big name coach with a rep. Guys like Tommy Brooks, Don Turner, or whoever is flavor of the month. Sometimes it's just about the right trainer for you, and that might be, a like a genes related thing as well. The fact that for Ivan Robinson, the best trainer for him was his father, Jimmy, and it doesn't matter who you bring in; he's never going to do the job as well because of the chemistry and understanding and the history they have.
So. On the question that I asked you, like, did life change for you after that fight, after the Gatti fight? Tell me how.
Oh, yeah.
Were people giving you like free fruit when you're running down the street in Philly, or like, you know what I mean? Like,
I had a pretty great crowd in Philly, and Philly. Well, you don't know, but Philly is like one of the hardest cities in the world, man. I mean, anytime they throw snowballs at Santa Claus in Philly.
Yo, you guys have a prison in Veterans Stadium or whatever it was.
Yeah, exactly. So the city is definitely rough, but I mean, I didn't have no problem, huh?
I've only been there for like half an hour, and I went with this gentleman in the middle there. When we were for the Atlantic City Boxing Hall of Fame, we took a quick trip to Philly. We had a cheesesteak and a milkshake. The milkshakes were really good, I got to tell you.
Oh, they're incredible. Yeah,
that's why it's so hard for us to lose weight.
Yeah, man. The cheesesteaks and the milkshakes, exactly.
Yeah, definitely. But it was great. I mean, I basically had, like I said, coming through that time, I was like Emmanuel Augustus. Except for with Emmanuel Augustus, evidently he came straight probably from home to learn how to box, but I had a little background. I was in the amateurs, in Philly. I was really the top dog in Philly from the age of like 10 to 17. Then when I turned pro, I had a lot of people in Philly who loved me and cherished me and all that. And when I lost my USBA title to Pito Israel Cardona, the city didn't really like turn their back on me, but it was like I was like either the Sixers or the Eagles. I let a lot of people down, and they wasn't sure what it was that I was going to do from here on out. They didn't know what I was going to do because I didn't really take no time off, but I left and I got my own head. It was just a lot going on. So
did you have distractions, like female distractions, money distractions?
No.
Like, what was it?
No. It was just basically me. I felt as though I let myself down, and I was still being harbored with the situation of my dad.
So that was it. So let me ask you something. We're going to jump around a little bit here, and I'm really sorry about this because I'm really interested with you and talking about powers. Do you think you didn't develop that power because of your speed? Like you're very fast. You're a reflex fighter. You're like you're the way in which you were able to let go of your punches so quickly is like it's amazing. It really is. I could never understand how guys would be able to just like that connection between brain and hand and just let your hands go. But do you think because of that attribute, which is a great attribute to have, that you didn't execute the punch fully? Like you didn't punch through the target, you punch to it and then you pull it back. So you don't really drive through it. Do you think that was one of the things that if you would have done that, if you had a trainer that worked that with you, you would have been punching through and you would have had more power at that point?
I think that could have been something that was added on to it. But as you see, if I got to the point where I actually just settled down in punching, I probably wouldn't have had the mobility. No, I'm not gonna say wouldn't have. I probably wouldn't have did the things that I needed to do to have the mobility to stay flexible as I was, because as more than anything, it's like a moving car. Once a moving car gets hit, it stops and it's frozen. The same thing with a punch. If a person catches you with a good shot, I don't care if it's a body shot or a head shot, you're gonna get traumatized for a minute. You're gonna stand still. And I know me being a Philly fighter, it's gonna kick in the slug. It's definitely gonna kick in the slug. So that I was always about numbers, and then my numbers was being ahead of my opponent at all times and getting out. Like I said, it's just that right before the Gatti fight, things changed. I kind of got really like lackadaisical with not moving too much.
And you had Bowie Fisher in the corner. You had Bowie in the corner, Ivan, for the first fight, I believe.
Bowie was what I liked about Mr. Bowie. Mr. Bowie came in and he didn't change nothing. Mr. Bowie let me keep everything that I had from the time I was with my dad. All Mr. Bowie did was just add pieces onto what it is that I wanted to do. And it was just crazy how the whole time we was in camp, he kept specifically saying, you hit this kid with an uppercut. And I never understood it. I'm like, why he keep telling me that? He just keeps saying, you can see he said that when I went in the corner. He like, and that his favorite word was go home. I'm like, go home. You really want me to go home? He like, no, I want you to get back to the center of the ring.
Yeah.
That's all he wanted me to do. So, but Mr. Bowie helped a lot too, because he came in, he's around that era with my dad, with Georgie Benton, Lou Duval. He around that era, you know what I'm saying? And plus he had the great Bernard Hopkins. So, that was a plus.
So did you ever spar with Meldrick Taylor?
No, never. Could you imagine with that train? Could you imagine with that sparring session with a band?
I'd love to see that.
There'd be a hell of a lot of punches thrown in that session.
Exactly. But I always tell everybody the only thing that would have been different and unique in that fight in that sparring session with me and Meldrick Taylor was that I felt as though I had the better defense.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. No, your head movement, because in that fight with Gatti, for instance, I think it was in the 4th round, he caught you with a shot and dropped you in the corner, but it didn't look like it almost looked like you went down because you thought you were a little bit dizzy and not because you lost control of your body from a punch. Was that shot was it on top of the head or was it?
It was in the back of the neck, and actually I didn't even know I went down. I didn't know I went down until I looked up at the ref. I'm like, damn, I'm down. And then I looked at my corner and it was like, I was like, nah, man, I'm good. I'm all right.
Those shots behind the head and to the to the cerebral cortex and stuff like that, they're the most dangerous shots you can take in boxing. I can never understand how they never fully, obviously the Gatti one was by accident. You were turning and he threw the right hand and that's just going to happen. But a lot of guys are throwing those things on purpose, and they're just the worst shots to get hit with if the referees kind of enforced it. So you got dropped, and that was early in the 4th round. and then he caught you late with a shot. I think it was off the top of the head, right, in the 12th and final round.
10th.
Those were the worst shots too. Those are the worst shots too.
Yeah, in the 10th and final round. You'd heard him multiple times throughout that fight as well. I saw his legs give out a couple of times.
Right.
I think it was the 8th round, and where he sagged into you, and if you were to put a couple more together, maybe it wouldn't have went the distance either. But when you got caught in the 10th round, do you remember what goes through your mind? Anything like that? I know it's a long time ago, but it's trauma, and trauma we remember.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember what the hell happened. I thought I was on a boardwalk in Atlantic City. But I was actually on the boardwalk. I was just inside the convention center.
Now he could really crack. Well, the first time he unloaded on you, did you say, "Okay, this is going to be interesting. I'm sort of like dealing with a time bomb here, and I got to take it apart like a bomb technician," or did it not matter to you?
Well, like I said, I was already excited about the fight because even though the first fight wasn't a lot of money, you know how, and I know you probably been in this situation too, Mr. Lodge, where you sit there saying to yourself, like, I need that one fight, or I need that first hit of this number, but I need something to get me over the threshold of where I'm at. And like I said, going into the first Gatti fight, I needed a fight because I was hungry.
Mm-hmm.
I needed a fight. At the time, I didn't really care what fight it was. I didn't care if it was just a regular 10-round fight. I didn't care. I was hoping to be a 12-round fight. I hope it was going to be a TV fight. But then again, all those things didn't matter. I just wanted a fight. But the night that my manager called me and told me that it was going to be Arturo Gatti, I mean, like a whole lot of things went through my mind. But you know me, being a Philly fighter, at the end of the day, I was like, let's go. Let's do it.
Yeah. And may I ask you, was that your largest purse? Second Gatti? Was the second Gatti fight larger than the first Gatti fight?
Yes, but even though it was the largest purse of my career, it was the big. It propelled me to get bigger and better fights, and more money, because the fights I was getting before that, of course, you know, I was coming through the ranks. But at the time that I fought Gatti, I was 25 and 2. Mm-hmm. So I wasn't really getting the top dollar that I wanted to get, but you know, it still urged me to get something, and I wanted to get a fight because I was ready. And thank God the Gatti fight came through. But you know, I almost got the Shane Mosley fight, but it didn't happen.
Yeah. And you felt that would have been the money fight for you. May I ask you, like, in terms of not to bump into your personal business and stuff like that, but did you take that money and reinvest it and do something good with it, or is it something that like all of us, like me included, I just like my money's just disappeared, and I know who disappeared.
It did. Some of it disappeared, but I had people in my corner good enough to tell me to put some things away, and it prevailed to helping me with bigger things. Like I said, I could do things today that I probably wouldn't have been able to.
Wow, off that money still. That's great.
I think you spent it all on your wardrobe, didn't you, Silk?
You know what? This guy, he's a comedian as well as
analyst too, huh? That's cool.
I'm behaving myself this week, relatively. Explain to the esteemed guest. I'm actually behaving myself quite a lot this week.
You know what? He's prone to anger, bursts of anger. They call him, like, he's the English Yosemite Sam, and so he tends to fly off a little bit, but he's really acting good today. We're proud of you, Ben.
Yeah. It's not every day you get Mighty in the house, you know.
Yeah,
I appreciate that. Thank
you. So I mean, there's so many things I want to talk to you about. I know we're running short on time. I don't want to hold you up forever, but talk about. Sorry, go ahead.
I say I have all the time in the world.
Okay, all right, thank you. I appreciate that. Tell me about.
Can we talk about Chavez?
I want to see the glamorous side of that, because I know that when I fought that fight, that one fight that announced me coming out, and just life changed. Like all of a sudden I went to stores and people are giving you things. They recognize you on the street. It's just, I mean, you're fighting primetime on HBO, and they're, I mean, I fought like on Showtime, but it wasn't as big as like what you were doing on HBO. And then I had the NBC fights, and those were great because everyone got to see them. So that actually gave me more visibility.
That's where I seen you at. That's where you caught my eye at.
That's funny. That's crazy. Yeah, fighting Dangerous Don Lee, who was, I mean, he was an incredible puncher. What's the biggest injury you've sustained in boxing? Because you seem extremely clear, like you're everything. I really love seeing you like this, like the ability to talk. You're not having a problem processing anything.
Well, I'm not a big religious fan, but I do go to church and I do believe in God. I just say I give the glory and give to Him, because if it wasn't for Him guide me through the fights that I came through, because trust me, I've been in some wars.
Yeah,
I might not have been in the wars like you, but I've been in some wars, and I was able to, I don't even want to say escape. I was just able to come out, healthy, able to have my mobility to move, able to talk to you guys, still be able to count. You know what I'm saying? I have a boxing business now. I have a bunch of fighters that I train, a couple that I manage. So, God was good to me and helping me throughout my career, my amateur career, and then definitely the rough of the pro career, and then being able to deal with these sharks out here in the street, because Philly is definitely rough. I mean, you got young kids out here killing each other and stuff, so it's rough. So, then being able to talk to you, Mr. Michael Elijah, that I watched coming up, man, look, I'm blessed.
Let me ask you, thank you. You're so honorable. I really appreciate you. But do you have any children of your own? And if you did, are you training them as fighters?
I do. I don't train. Well, I got 3 sons and 3 daughters. None of my sons wanted to box. None. And to be honest with you, I'm kind of glad that they did, because I know, I ain't gonna say the trials and tribulations that I went through with my dad, but I could tell. I'm glad, because I knew the pressure that my dad put on me, with me being as great that I was. You know what I'm saying? And I mean, it was just, I'm not saying that he beat me or nothing. Like, my dad didn't do that. What was crazy about it, that's why I know you were saying how many amateur fights did I have. I can't tell you, because to be honest with you, I never had over 100. I became so good that when I did start hitting the national scene, I only hit the national scene to only fight on international tournament. After I lost to Oscar De La Hoya that second time when we went to the Nationals, I never went back. I never fought on any tournament in the city ever, because I was on that team from 89 to 92. I never fought on, and Oscar did too. Tim Austin, Eric Griffin, Chris Bird, Larry Donald, Shane Mosley, Vernon Forrest. We grew a bond together. We was like that 76 Olympic team.
Yeah.
Although, we was like the 76 Olympic team, even though the 84 came back and they won 5 gold medals. But we was pretty much like that 76 Olympic team. That's how the 92 Olympic team was. And that's how they really challenged us to be. They challenged us as being that 76 Olympic team, man.
Montel Griffin was in that shake-up too. Montel went to the 92.
Oh yeah, Montel Griffin, he definitely was, And it was crazy, because I listened, because me and Montel were real good friends. It's crazy how I listened to Montel say his story, because he said he took a couple years off and then he came back, and he was like pretty much like he was that unsung hero. He just came out of nowhere.
He feels he never had the credit, certainly. And you talk about having a chip. I think Montel has a little bit of that going on because he says he beat James Toney and Roy
Oh,
Jones.
yeah.
He beat James Toney twice, and he doesn't feel he ever gets the props he deserves.
Yeah, I remember. And that's just like Mr. Michael Lodge was saying, like, like he was asking me about me having that spirit and spunk in Philly and then having that glory in Philly. I'm just the type of guy. I love boxing. That's what I do. That's why I train fighters now. I manage and all that. But what I've done in my time, I thank God for giving me all the ability to do what I've done and be and get where I gotten and to see everything when I was an amateur. But I tell all my fighters now that it's not about me, it's about them. I want them to train like I train. It's just as hard as I train. I got a couple young kids that I train. I tell them all from the door, straight from the door, if you're not gonna obey me,
right.
But first of all, forget obeying me. If you're not doing what you need to do in school and you're not listening to your parents, I don't even want to see you. I don't even want to be part of the team. Because that's where it started. It starts right there. And I was just lucky to have my mom and my dad. They was both my supporters. But my dad did all the work. And like I said, one thing else that I love about my dad, I don't know how many other fighters got a chance to. They fathers did it or they trainers did it. My dad never let me train during the summer. The summer, he let me be a kid. I played baseball. I played basketball. Football, I couldn't deal with it. It was just getting hit too much with that. I couldn't deal with that. But he let me be a kid, and so
Which
I
is
didn't
good because you hear sometimes the more horror story side of the Benitez father relationship and the Tony Ayala Jr. thing where you get the obsessive father, where they really don't let them become ordinary human beings. And there's a price to pay somewhere psychologically for that kind of thing.
That's why I'm glad my sons never wanted to be fighters, because for one, the way I looked at it and the way I seen it, I would have felt as though if I would have had to train them, I would have had to be that really, really hard disciplined dad because simple fact, they're gonna already go through obstacles with the people out in the street and their friends knowing that their dad was a fighter. They gonna put the pressure on them that they gotta be better than me. I don't need that. So I'm glad both of my sons are playing basketball. Well, both of them now. One of them is out. The other one is a high school coach. So I'm good with it. I'm okay with it.
Let's get modern day for a second. Who's the greatest pound for pound fighter in your mind today?
Sugar Ray Robinson.
No, I mean like pound for pound for active fighters. I mean, sorry.
Oh, you mean active fighters?
Yeah. But I think it's Muhammad Ali anyway. But let's go today. We won't.
You said today, okay.
Yeah, today.
How do you know what? That's a great question. Nobody really ever asked me that. Wow, that's a good question.
And before we go any further, we do have to say hi to Gary Stretch. He just said hi to us on the.
What's up, Gary? Hey, Gary, how you doing?
He's almost still as handsome as he is in that slightly old photograph today.
Is this slightly old?
Well, he doesn't look exactly like that today, does he? But I like to think of him that way, still.
I'm still stuck on your question, Mr. Elijah. That's a great question.
I would say, well, you don't want to hear what I say, do you, Silk? You want to hear
why not?
Well, I would say it will come down to a Terence Crawford or Naoya Inoue, or even somebody who might like Tank Davis. And I would say that you're talking about like Tank Davis.
But why would you say Inoue when he hasn't, like when we're talking about, like he's accomplished things.
I think you've got a bit of a blind spot on him, my friend. I think you've got a little bit of a
blind spot. Listen for a second. You're talking about Inoue and you're talking about, now we're talking, he moved up and he's won title. You're giving him this title because he's won titles in different divisions.
He just looks so ludicrously efficient to me. He's a great puncher who carries his power up the division, and he is just such a no-frills machine. He is a machine. He can box, he can punch.
No, but you're saying because he went from like strawweight to flyweight.
No, I get it. You're not knocked out by him. You're not knocked out by him. I understand that, but it's a legitimate point of view.
No, I know. I do think he's an incredible puncher, and I do think he's an incredible boxer. Like I see the skills.
He reminds me of Donald Curry.
he has all those skills, but until I guess they really, I don't know, there's got to be some sort of like conflict point. You want to see them work something out. Like he hasn't had to work anything out yet that I've seen. Although no, I call myself a liar right on the spot because the kid from the Philippines, who's the puncher?
Anyway, oh no, you're talking about I know you're talking about. What's his weight? What's his weight?
He's I think he was like 112. He was come on.
You're talking about Nonito Donaire?
Yes, Nonito Donaire, yes.
Yeah, no, that's my man, yep.
Yeah,
no,
yeah. Now you did beat him, and you have to give him props for that. And that was a difficult fight. Like
But regardless, shall we want Ivan to come to some kind of conclusion, I guess, who he thinks is the best fighter.
I already got him now. I was lunching, I already got him.
Okay.
What are you saying?
Y'all sure you want to hear this?
Yeah, I want to hear.
Jaron Ennis.
Oh, Ennis.
I love Ennis, and I wish Crawford would forget about all his other stuff and just fight him. Honestly.
So you think you like him better? You like him against Crawford?
Yes. Crawford not gonna fight him though. Crawford see a young him in himself, and the only person that could probably beat Crawford is himself, and that's Jaron.
Yeah.
Now,
I like Ennis a lot. I do like him a lot, and it's a shame, you know.
And Ben, you say the same thing. You think he's going to beat Crawford?
Not necessarily, but I give him a shot, and I want to see it. And also, I just think it's such a shame today. Ivan was talking about how things have deteriorated in some ways, or not the same anymore. It's such a shame that such an exciting contender like Jaron Ennis, he gets to become a world champion because Crawford drops a belt, and it kind of dilutes the coronation moment, and because we don't really see him as a champion, probably a lot of people don't until he fights Crawford.
Well, if somebody vacates, then automatically because they don't want to fight you. If they vacate and you end up fighting for it, then I would definitely crown them as the king of their division or whatever.
But Crawford is still the king of the welterweight division until he moves on.
Yeah, I thought you just said he wasn't going to take that fight against.
He's not going to take the fight with Ennis, but he's still a welterweight champion until further notice because he cleaned up the division and beat Errol Spence. But I'm just saying it's a shame that a guy like Ennis becomes a world champion in the manner that he does because everything is diluted nowadays. You know what I mean? It was building in our era, but it's worse today.
One thing for sure, him and his dad didn't want it that way.
For sure, and I can imagine they wanted something more heroic.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of how Crawford, like his ability. He has incredible ability, as does Ennis. Ennis to me looks a little bit more showy, a little bit more flashy, and I like that as well. I always tend to think that some of that stuff is more smoke and mirrors. And when you have to really sit down, legitimately fight for the whole time, and you can't take off and do the shuck and jive and all the rest of that kind of stuff. Like I don't think that kind of stuff, that kind of fight is going to work with him against somebody like Crawford. He just has to be hard nosed and do what he knows how to do well and not do anything. He has to be extremely efficient in that fight.
Well, if you look at the way Sugar Ray Leonard fought Benitez, all the frills were gone there, and it was just real business. And that's the kind of mindset and approach that would be required. I don't necessarily say he'll beat Crawford, but that's the fight I want to see in the welterweight division. Crawford, he's almost got nowhere to go because he fancied the Canelo fight. Maybe it doesn't look like that's going to happen. He wanted to fight Tim Tszyu, but you see what happened.
Yeah. Did you see the Tim Tszyu fight, Ivan?
Yes, I seen it.
Yeah.
What did you think of that? That was a mess.
Well, first of all, Tim Tszyu need to fire his whole team.
Yeah.
because the reason boxing is boxing and we do boxing is because we have rules, regulations in hand that state what's going on when you're fighting for a title. Not even when you're fighting for a title, when you fight preliminary period. The referee gives you his instructions on what he wants you to do prior to the fight, and his instructions that you're supposed to know from your state before you go in there. There was no way, I don't care what the circumstance was, there was no way that Tim Tszyu trainers was supposed to let that fight go past 4 rounds.
Yeah. Because he could have won on he could have won a technical decision or even had a no contest if it ended with.
There you go. And the thing is, why do you guys? Well, I can't even say you guys because Mr. Olajide is a former champ, and you are all around master of knowing what's going on. Why didn't his corner know that?
Well, Silk is always criticizing corners these days. You know, when he says, "I wonder why they don't tell him the things that you have to tell him."
I don't care. They would have just my one thing about me. I'm for safety with my kids, with my fight, with anybody. Period. It's about safety. For one, boxing is one of the most brutal sports in the world that doesn't have pinches for us fighters like me and Mr. Elijah today. You know what I'm saying? We are probably the most craziest people in the world. We make so much money, we forget what to do with it or how to do things with it. Yeah. So when it comes to that sort of things right there, I gotta protect my fighters at all costs, no matter kids, young adults, grown men. It doesn't matter. I have to protect them because at the end of the day, I'm the one that's gonna feel bad about it. Yeah. There was no way I would have let my fighter go past 4 rounds with that cut like that, man. Even if I think that he had a chance to knock him out, I didn't want to sit there. I wouldn't want to sit there and see that going like that.
I think that's what it was. I think exactly that's what it was. The fact that they thought Tim was going to knock him out anyway. So, you know what I mean? They're just going to let it go and let it happen. But
they didn't do a great job on actually controlling the cut either, Ivan, did they? You know?
No, that's what. No, they did not. I don't mean I'm not a cut man. I don't know what exactly was supposed to be or what they were supposed to have to prevent the cut from running like it did, but.
I don't think they could have done anything with that cut, sort of short of stitches. There's nothing they could have because where it was, like in the middle of the head, how do you close that up? It's just an open.
I hear what you're saying. Mike Ayala was saying they didn't seem to be applying enough pressure to it from what he could see.
Yeah, pressure, but
they wasn't. But how much pressure can you put on it in 30 seconds?
Yeah,
true. By the time
as soon as the bell rings, as soon as you get one punch on there, it's
and then it comes to a point. Then it comes to a point again on, what I'm saying, like me and Mr. Elijah they were saying earlier in the podcast, like you have to have a corner to know exactly what they're doing. Like I was saying to y'all earlier about my dad when Mr. Elijah asked me about my dad being a fighter, and I told you no. Evidently, the knowledge that my dad got or has, he brought to me and he knew what to do. Now, that's like Tim Tszyu. His dad was one of the best in the world.
Yeah, for sure.
And I know his dad probably put him with the best corner in the world. Why didn't the corner know exactly what to do? Yeah. And then on top of that, Tszyu, I don't know, I'm going to say it, but Tszyu probably came out of his mom womb learning how to fight, but his probably didn't let him start really fighting or doing no competition or nothing until he was probably like 6 or 7 or 8, somewhere around there. Then he let him start. But even Tim Tszyu knew, like, I mean, you got to be in that ring right there, not just your corner, but you have to also know what you're doing and how you're doing it and where you at in the fight. Because there was no way in the world I would, after the 4th round, and I seen all that blood, me drinking my blood and the blood covering I would have probably lost. So I would have went and sat in the corner somewhere.
Yeah, well, you can see how he was reacting, that it wasn't the way Tim Tszyu was.
Yeah, definitely.
That it was a problem. So, yeah, absolutely. That should have been. There has to be a conversation. Like, I don't even know if the corner was talking to Tim.
I don't think they was neither.
It was just like they all just decided together that they were going to continue to fight.
Where was his dad at? I haven't seen his dad in 3 of his fights.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I don't know how his father, like, and at that point, that's when your father, who's had the experience before, you would think would be able to make decisions like that. Like, you can't get caught up in the ego and say, well, there's no way he's going to lose. Because I could see Tim's, if you look at Tim and you look at this kid, and you're just like, there's no way this kid's going to do anything with Tim Tszyu. But then when I told everybody when the fight was made,
I said the only thing I don't like about Fundera is that he fights on it. He's too tall to be fighting on that side. But I said, like I said to y'all, we was talking early in the podcast again about the situation with me being in the Gatti fight, and you was asking me about punching up. I said at times, and I said it just a few minutes ago, at times, not just the corner, but the fighter has to also know what he does in that ring and what he can do in that ring to make things better for him. Because trust and believe, just as well as your outside guys, the corner, the outside, see things, you see things too. It ain't always you going off with your trainers and them taught you in the gym. You going by with the experience that you have in every fight, in every training session, with your trainer, in every training session that you have when you sparring. And I told everybody, I said, if Fandor get out of having that ego, and he put his cup on, he put his gloves on, and he put his shoes on, and he go out there and he be smart, he could beat Tim Tszyu. And he went out there and he did exactly what he was supposed to do, except for the cut. He beat Tim Tszyu from the outside, which he was supposed to. Because if he would have went on the inside, he would have gave Tszyu a chance to knock him out.
If that cut wouldn't have happened, do you see Fundora beating Tim Tszyu?
Yes.
Really?
Yes, because
that's what Gary thinks.
Tim Tszyu did everything he needed to do. I mean, Fandor did everything he needed to do to win the fight. And then on top of it, he was bleeding from his nose. And even though Tim Tszyu was bleeding from the head, it was still having some kind of dysfunctional with Fandor about what he wanted to do. If he didn't have that cut, I think he would have probably put a lot more pressure on Tim Tszyu.
I can't see it happening. I couldn't see him beating them. I mean, he had the best situation he could have had, and he didn't. It's not like to me, it wasn't a unanimous decision, and he had the best situation he could have. The guy pouring blood into both of his eyes for 12
minutes. This is unanimous in that context, did you, Silk? That big casual misunderstanding. Unanimous can be close as you like. It just can be. It's just three judges uniform.
Oh, I didn't know that, Ben. Thanks.
Yeah, exactly. So come on. You can't say that's pub talk that's saying it wasn't a unanimous decision to me.
No, I didn't say. I said unanimously. I didn't mean as in a unanimous decision.
So decisively, you mean?
Well, yeah. Thank you. He's my thesaurus now. Ben Doubles is a thesaurus.
More disagreeable side before we leave over and out.
Here comes Yosemite.
Yeah. Symmetry.
Man. So if there are anyone that have any questions for Ivan before we go, if you want to pop them in real quick, we'll try to get those things answered for you. But we're coming to our close really fast. I don't want to hold you up any more than you have. Ivan, you love football, right?
Yes, sir.
And I understand you're a huge Raider fan.
Who fan?
The Raiders.
No, I'm not. Who told you that?
Yeah, that's what I heard. I forget who was telling me that. You go back.
You just made it up.
Yeah, he just made that up. He just made that up.
Who's your team, Philly? The Eagles? That's your
team.
Yeah. You guys. Well, I know you're not going to like us at all because that's one of our Super Bowl wins was over the Ron Jaworski led Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah.
I was get the LA allegiance from, Silk. Where'd you get the LA leaning from?
Well, they were Oakland first, and that was the only team. I grew up in Vancouver, and when I grew up, that was the only team that came up the West Coast for us. There was no Seattle Seahawks, so we saw Raiders as home team, home games, and that's when you know what I mean. And then, of course, Kenny Stabler, John, the whole mystique was great. But Philadelphia has been doing great as of recently in the last decade or so.
Yeah, we have.
Yeah, and you also love Liverpool, right, for soccer? Liverpool.
No, I only like soccer.
It's not an American thing, is it? It's never really cool.
But if you did love soccer, you would love the Liverpool Reds, I'm sure, right? Not Manchester United.
I don't know.
No, I'm trying to draw him into something which is completely alien concept.
I had to let Gary know that he still knows, you know what I mean? That it's not Man U, that's for sure. But yeah, thanks. It's so great. Well, so quickly, I guess. What's the future, brother? What does the future hold for you? What are you looking to do?
Or he's a clairvoyant now?
That's a great question. Just me continuing to be Ivan Robinson.
Yeah.
Hopefully to get to see my buddy, my partner, my friend, Mr. Michael Elijah there again soon.
Yeah, we're gonna see you in AC. You're gonna be there this year, right? Again. I saw you
Yeah,
last.
that's right. That's right. Yeah, it is the Boxing Hall of Fame again this year, right? I be
Yeah.
forgetting about it. Yeah, I guess I am gonna be down there. Yeah, we're gonna have some fun.
Yeah, let's have a good time.
That's about it. I ain't gonna do too much.
So you met Ivan last time. How come I didn't? Did you do that without me?
Yeah, on purpose too.
Yeah, no doubt.
Well, that means I get to see you this year then.
Yeah,
we'll definitely make a point of that. I'll be
hey,
there.
listen,
as well.
we're all going to get together with Scully, and we're going to take a trip to some, you know what I mean, get some Philly food. You know,
We do the steps.
Come on down.
Yeah, we're gonna have a good time, brother. I do appreciate you so much. I know, Ben, you're gonna get us out of here.
I'm gonna do what?
What? Ben's gonna take us out.
Yeah, sure. So, Ivan, it's been an absolute pleasure to get to know you over the last 70 minutes. You know, you're a fantastic fighter. I enjoyed watching your career again, a little bit of it this afternoon before we spoke. Thanks so much for joining us on Soga Soak and Stretch, and I hope to meet you in person one time soon. Thank you, sir.
We will. We will. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tune in next week. We're going to preview Devin Haney versus Ryan Garcia. Be there or be nowhere.
Hey, quick. Ivan.
You want to talk about it?
Who wins that fight?
Go on.
Come on, man. Stop playing. Devin wins that fight.
Yeah, that's what I think.
But you know what? Don't get it twisted. I think Ryan Garcia gonna make it a hard fight for him. It's not gonna be an easy fight.
Yeah. And so, do you think it goes the distance or no?
No. I actually think that this is where Devin really gets all his notoriety on being a force pound for pound. By him knocking out Ryan Garcia.
Yeah, even though the kid Davis already did it, and he's kind of
yeah, but that's just like with a Pit Bull. You know, Pit Bull. They put him in with right fights. He beating people, but you know, I think his biggest test was with Gervonta Davis.
Yeah.
As long as they don't give him nobody who could box real well, and can punch, he'd be all right.
Yeah. All right. So, okay. Thank you so much for that, Ben. I guess you're going to do it again, right? You're going to take us out again or what?
Yeah. Tune in next Friday. We hope the Stretch is back. He's actually tipping Garcia. I see it right now. We're going to have that out and more next Friday. In the meantime, be lucky and keep punching.
Oh, wait for a second. One more question. Last one. And then
you're a nightmare. You're a broadcasting nightmare.
I'm joking. All right, we're out.
Why are you joking? You've just been a nuisance. Right, thanks, guys. It just doesn't
All right, see you, Ivan. Bye.
All right,
Hang on. We'll speak after.